Happy Monday, ladies. It is so much of a blessing for us to have another day of life, right? Health and strength and God's grace and mercy. And so this week we want to talk about breaking unhealthy relationship patterns, okay? So one of the hardest things to do, and is necessary when it comes to reclaiming your power, soul, and identity, is to break unhealthy relationship patterns, right? And then you might wonder, well, how does one do that? The only way to start the process of breaking unhealthy relationship patterns is by becoming self-aware. You cannot break what it is that you do not know, okay, and not aware of, right? And what does that mean? That means you've got to become aware of the who, what, when, where, why, and how about you, about yourself, right? How you're wired up, what makes you tick, what your triggers are, what lies you keep allowing Satan to whisper in your ear over and over again. And then you're in turn taking these lies and changing them over into limiting beliefs. You got to be aware of how you talk and relate to yourself and what your love attachment style is. And we got 4 attachment styles. It's either secure, anxious, avoidant, or fearful avoidant, right? And so the secure attachment, of course, is self-explanatory as far as securely attaching to your parents when you were babies up through toddler years, right? And then you've got the anxious attachment, where that was I would call what my grandmother used to say back in the day, suntiming. That's kind of like a suntiming attachment. Sometimes you attach securely to them and other times you didn't. And that was because they were, the times you didn't, either they were unaware of not being giving you what it was you need as far as love and nurturing was concerned, right? Or either they were too wrapped up in what was going on in their lives, and or it could have been the fact that they themselves were wrapped up in coping mechanisms, so they were not available to you as you needed. So that could have also caused anxious attachment, right? And then we've got number 3, which is the avoidant attachment, and that's either where you isolate yourself from people, and or you give people something different than what they ask you. So say, for instance, you ask somebody is asking you if they can borrow your ruler, and then you give them an apple. But that's not what you asked for. Okay, that's an example of avoidance attachment, in case you're wondering if that's you. Okay, and then lastly, we got fearful avoidant. It was when you needed your parents, right? You needed them, but you didn't trust them. It was a push and pull relationships that left you with an inability, rather, to understand boundaries. And then it also left you with feeling neglected, being, you were abused and traumatized. Everything was erratic as far as their behavior. So that's what fearful avoiding is. And so once you know your love attachment style, then it's important for you to understand what your personality type is, right? And you can go to like EnneagramInstitute.com to take that test, right? And so because this combination, right, of the love attachment and the personality type is what determines what your learned stress response will be, right? I call it the learned stress response, because we got 4 different types of stress responses. You got fight, you've got flight, you've got freeze, and you've got fawn. And fawn is also known as please, appease, right? And so your learned stress response is going to be based upon your love attachment style combined with your personality type, right? And so the learned stress response is just basically how you respond in stressful and or traumatic situations, right? And so I always say everything ends and begins with love, right? For God so loved the world. And so what happens is that every time someone shows us love, our trauma gets triggered from the Garden of Eden. Then our trauma gets triggered from our family's love story garden, right? And that's our family of origin. Then our trauma, third, is that if we are a person of color, then our trauma gets triggered from society's love, right? The way that they show us love. And then what happens is that we naturally want to project onto other people that we're in relationship with our own experiences, and they may or may not be doing what it is that we are thinking they're doing. And sometimes they are, right? But the only way to know that is doing the self-work and healing to determine if your perception is actually true, or if it's something that, imagination is just going on in your brain. Like the scripture say, to cast down imaginations and every high thing that exalted itself against the knowledge of God, and bring into captivity every thought into the obedience of Christ. So it might just be something that you imaginations you got going on in your mind, right? And so when you deal with the way that you feel loved, right, or felt loved, right, both of them, when you deal with that, it enables you to pre-vet the next step in the 5L cycle, right? It's prevent, rather, not pre-vet, but prevent the next step in the 5L cycle. Because once you leave from love, remember I said everything begins and ends in love. Once you leave from that love is the first step. The next thing is lies. So if you can go through and break that cycle, then you can prevent the way that people are showing you love to be turned into a lie. And the lies come from Satan, him whispering into your ear because of the way that person is showing you love. You're this and you're that and you're this and you're that, and giving you his own definition about love based upon someone else's actions, and not based upon what God says about you and about love. Because according to God, we're his beloved, right? We are chosen. We are the righteousness of God in Christ. We're the head and not the tail. We're above always and never beneath. But we've got to believe that over the lies that Satan is putting in our head about the way that other people behave when they show us love, because that is on them. It's not on us. But what happens is that we end up internalizing all of these different things when we don't stop the cycle, right? And that's one of the major things that has to happen in order for you to reclaim yourself after narcissistic abuse. Happy Monday. Until next time.